Well, hello YouTube and all you modelers. Welcome to the Grumpy Old Scale Modeler YouTube channel. My name is Darren and you have stopped by for episode 1 of the Salvino'sJR number 81 Bobby Allison Rainier Racing Monte Carlo. I've actually started to break into this kit. I'm really excited about doing this series. This is a pretty cool kit. I'm glad that y'all are here to take that journey with me. So that said, if this is your first time here, if you like what you see here in episode 1, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and go ahead and pop the notification bell. That way you're notified when I upload new content, because there's new stuff coming. I'm actually working 2 projects at one time. 81 Monte Carlo, and I'm still working on the 88 Miller Buick, as you can see right up here. It's coming along nicely. I'm working on episode 5, which is the final and the reveal, and that's all I'm going to show you. It's just a little shot of how close she's coming, but we're getting really close on that one. So there's new content coming out at the end of this week, beginning of next week, so it's going to start popping here pretty quick. So the Salvino's Monte Carlo, how this came to be. So I was over in the Salvino's Builders Club, and I want to go ahead and take a chance to plug that club, because it's an awesome group of folks over there, and it's an awesome cause for those that are really into the NASCAR building. I highly suggest you check it out. I'll link a card above right here to the video I did on the Builders Club, and of course if you have any questions at all, you can either put it in the description below, or my email is in the description below, and you can email me directly and I'll answer any questions you may have, or put you in contact with the people at Salvino's that can answer it. So I was in the club and I posted a comment about this kit might have to be my next build series, and it got an overwhelming response. So here we are, and it's been started. I've got some work done on it. So this video here, we're going to start off with talking about the instructions, and then a real update and show you where we're at to date with the build. And then we're going to look at the roll cage, and we're going to get that put together and talk about some of the build strategies, special build strategies that I utilize when I'm building a car. I also want to talk a few minutes in this one about chrome. And you're going to notice that Salvino's kits have the best chrome probably in the industry. So that's it. Now this is a personal preference. I strip my chrome off of parts that I want to repaint. That's just something I do, and I have found out from Mr. Salvino personally, it is not required with their chrome. You can paint right over the top of it. So it takes paint just fine. So don't think that the way I'm doing it is the way you have to do it. You can paint over that chrome if you would like. So that's what we're going to cover in this exciting episode. This one's actually a little bit shorter than normal. Usually my episodes are around 30 minutes. I've kept this one right around 17. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, if you have any questions or any techniques, anything you want me to talk a little bit more in depth about, please put it in the comments. I read them all. As a matter of fact, from the Miller Buick series, I've got a couple comments that have led me to add to the content for this build to show some stuff for those guys. So I appreciate you all for being here, and I'll quit rambling and on with the show. So the first thing I want to briefly discuss here is the instructions. And anyone who has built a Salvino's kit knows that the instructions literally are as easy as what's written in black and white. One of the things I did notice was the lack of color callouts for parts of this, but that's okay. And the reason why I say that's okay is because that allows you to build this 81 winner, 81 Monte Carlo, in a variety of different styles of car. You know, it's all dependent on what's in the reference picture. So, I mean, you can go to Mike's Decals and you can build a number of different variations of the car, and depending on that variation would depend on different colors. So what I do and what I've done is I've gone through and the reference pictures that I have been able to find, and you know, this is another issue that I've found with these kits, and it's not just these kits, it's others as well. It's just the lack of reference material when it comes to these old NASCAR kits. I can find some stuff on the internet, but it's sparse. You know, it's not like building an aircraft. The aircraft guys out there know what I'm talking about. You have folks like Burt Kinsey and Rock and those guys over Detail and Scale who do a bang-up job with their reference material. You can find, you know, for your aircraft guys, here's a link to Detail and Scale, but they have got an abundance of stuff with it. And it's not so much for the race cars, and I think that's because a lot of that stuff they keep so close to their chest. They don't like pictures taken and stuff. But these older kits, I don't know that there's an excuse for that. I would like to see more out there, but that's a talk for another day. Going back to the color callouts, what I like to do is, since I know that I'm doing this car, I've gone through and found as many pictures as I can and tried to find what I can for color callouts. I've asked some questions, I've looked at some pictures, and I started right here. Like, I know I want this panhard bar here. I want it aluminum, but I want the black brace. I want this piece silver, this piece is silver, but the trailing arms are black, you know, and I've gone through and noted that, so I can go ahead and start. And you'll see when I get into the catch-up of where I'm at now with the kit, what I'm talking about. So I also like to go ahead several steps and start to piece things together so I can make sure that things are going to work, right? And what can I get away with and what can I? If you remember back on the Miller Buick build, I like to build a roll cage as one complete unit. And I'm going to attempt to do that with this because I just feel like I can paint better all the way around the roll cage if it's a single unit rather than trying to do it as a whole, you know, chassis and roll cage together. So I'll move forward in the steps, and if you notice here, a little example of what I'm talking about. Step 2 has you build in the top of the chassis, which, you know, I've skipped this completely. I've moved on to 3, and I've started working on the bottom of the chassis first. I wanted to get this all built because it's going to move on now to 4 and 5 for the front, and then 6 and 7 with the suspension. And I want to try and get all the suspension stuff done first. Okay, that's the steps I like to follow. I don't always follow the instructions step by step. If you look over here on 16, this is where it's got you marrying up the 2 chassis pieces. I may play with this and attempt to dry fit this together first so I can get the roll cage and everything set in and just make sure everything's going to work. So point is I like to move forward, always look ahead and plan for the steps ahead. So that's my bit on the instructions. I am now going to move on and we will go through and talk about where we're at now with the build. I'll get you caught up because, as I said in the opening, I kind of started this after the poll was taken. So I'll be right back. Let me get the stuff together and I'll show you where we're at this point. So here's where I'm at now. I always got these little totes here that I like to keep all my loose parts in as I go through so I don't lose anything. You know, I have a couple of things going at one time. I am technically still working on the Miller Buick, so I want to keep things separate. So the first step I did, the first thing I wanted to do is I knew that there are parts on the motor that I did not want to have chrome. And I have heard time and time again that you can't strip Salvino's chrome. I will tell you the chrome is very, very tough. It's very resilient, but you can strip it. And I've been doing that here in this little vat of Clorox. I've got a couple pieces left in here. I've got the carburetor is almost there, and the air cleaner, which I'm taking the chrome off that. And I've got some rims in here that are going. I'm not going to use these rims. I'm going to use the 5-hole rims that I have on the tree, but I'm going to go ahead and strip them for another day. I just personally don't like to paint over chrome. So I would rather paint over plastic. And that, here's an example of that. These valve covers have been done. You can see here they have stripped off nicely, and we're down to plastic. So those are going to come out nice. I've also got the air cleaners done and the fuel pumps done. So that was step one, because that took a couple days of switching out the Clorox, because it will turn black. And I switched it out daily to fresh stuff, scrubbed them, and that took 3 days. So it was resilient, but it got there. So that was step one that I'd done. Next was, as I moved on to step one here in the motor, and I started assembling what you see here. Now, here's where we're at. I've got the bell housing and the block painted in an orange, black on the heads in the transmission. I did a little flat aluminum on the bottom, and then a little bit of dry brushing just to bring this out. Now, one thing I did do, and I'm going to go back to one of the first episodes of the Miller Buick, is this was all smooth textured, and I wanted it to have that casting type texture. So I took my Mr. Surfacer 500 and I put that on with a brush just like I did, and I'll link up here to that episode of the Miller Buick where I did this on the motor. But I dabbed it with a sponge and got the texture that I was looking for. And at the same time, hey, it covers up your seams. So that was done, and I got a little bit of the brushed aluminum on the intake manifold. That's taken care of. So now that I've got these parts, I can go ahead and finish the motor and get everything painted the way I want to. Give it a coat of some panel line accenter, and that's going to look groovy. So that's done. Next, like I said before, I like to do this stuff ahead. So I've got this stuff dry fitted, and this is the rear end. Here's the differential, and pardon my blue tack or white tack, whatever you want to call it, but I've got that on there. Let me pull that off there. I went ahead and put the lowering blocks on as the instructions said, and got this all painted up. And this is painted in accordance with the reference pictures I could find. You can see black with the reddish brown orange pumpkin, and my rear end cover is on there. So that's done. I got the rear end just kind of held in place, and I'll go ahead and take that off so you can see, because this needs to be painted. I was just kind of dry fitting. I got to put my silver paint on there where I want. Chassis still got to be painted silver. My springs, I painted black, and I came back, I dry brushed the spring itself with gray to lighten it up. And then after that, dry brush with some yellow. And once it's tucked up underneath there with a little panel liner in there, that's going to look cool. One thing I did do here, here's some pictures of it too, is I went through and I filled in all of the injector pin marks. That's just something I do. I can't stand looking at them. I do it whether it's an aircraft or whether it's a car. I don't care. I'm getting rid of them. So those are done. I still do have a little bit of work to do before I paint the red on this fuel cell back here. There's some scratches and stuff, but we'll get that all cleaned up. And I may come back here with another smooth coat, just kind of, because the silver, folks, is going to show all the defects. So I need to clean this up a little bit, smooth out a little bit more, but that's a work in progress. So that's where we are on the chassis. I do have at this point the shocks, rear shocks all painted. Those are ready to go. And next I need to try and figure this out. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the silver where I need to, and then we'll come back. So that's where we're on the chassis. That's where I'm at on the build so far. I've kind of got you up to date, and I will be back here. I'm going to go ahead and finish assembling the rear end here. I've got to put the pump on, and as I said in the opening, This is an out-of-the-box stock. I'm not adding anything else to it. No belts, no nothing. I'm not cutting the window net out. I'm doing this completely out of the box because it's the first Salvino's kit I've ever built. So that's the way this one's going to roll. And then I'm going to do it for the build-off, as I said, and put it in the box stock category. So that's all I've got for now. I hope that gets you guys caught up. And I will be back. I'm going to, in the next segment, as we move on to step 6 up here in the front and start trying to fit all this jazz in here. So I will be back shortly with an update. So it was a very productive night last night. Was able to get, as you can see right here, the old roll cage all assembled. I got the front roll bars or front bars put in and dry fitted, and I was 100% successful in what I was wanting to accomplish, and that was getting this to a point where I could slide it in there. Now, the firewall and dash are all just taped in. I haven't glued that yet. And that was just there so that I could take the roll cage and get it lined up. But you can see here, it is completely removable now. I can remove that, and I can turn around, I can paint this whole thing, and then put it in after this is painted as well. And that really helps if you wanted to do like gray or the silver for all this, and then black roll cages. It helps you out with other multicolored paint jobs as well. But really, what it really helps too is you can get underneath everything. And that's just, it's a personal thing. To me, it doesn't feel finished if I can't get underneath there and get all that paint. So success there. Also success in the front end, as you can see. That is all one piece, and here again comes apart, and I can get that all painted as well. So I have 3 pieces, and those, other than suspension pieces, are ready for primer and paint. Real quick about the instructions. I did have a couple instructions and issues with the instructions, and the first one was about lowering blocks. Now, if I show you all this, and this is going to be a testament as to how responsive these guys at Salvinos are. Here on step 3, you have lowering blocks, which are item 31. And I had 2. If you look here at the instructions, as you can see here, it calls for 2. It shows 2 on the right side, because this is inverted, left side. And then these are together on the other. Now, I put 2 in. And when I dry fit everything, I noticed that those wheels were sitting way up in the fender well, almost too low. So I posted in the Salvino's Builders group and asked the question, how many lowering blocks did you guys use, those that have built it? And it wasn't 2 minutes later, and Rick Salvino himself chimed in and said that he used 1. So, I mean, really, try and do that with Monogram or Revell. And Monogram back in the day, or try and do that with Tamiya. You're just not going to get to the owners of the company that fast and get answers that quick. The second issue I had was with the body and the roll cage where it makes up. And if you'll give me just a second, I'm going to assemble this and I will show you what I'm talking about. Here you go. It's all together. So, and you can see it fits, well, I'm sliding around there, but it fits very nicely. So the issue that I had, and I'll show you here in the instructions, when it goes to marry the body to the chassis here, this is all shows you. Put it on there. And those of y'all that have built Winston Cup cars or NASCAR cars before know that it's just simple. Usually it's just putting the body on there. But this one's a little bit different. And that is that there's some notches inside the fender well here. And I think you can see them in this picture right here. Right down here, you see this notch. And the firewall either fits up to it like so, okay, or it can go in front. And it makes a difference. So I asked the question. I had that question, and I also had a question about the notch for marrying up the rear chassis to the front. And here's a couple pictures. I put these pictures together, and I shot off an email. And 10 minutes later, I had a reply email with the answers I was looking for. That is customer service, and that's responsiveness. So Don't be afraid if you have questions to reach out and ask them a question. I know for a fact, from personal experience, that they are more than willing to help you out. So customer service, A+. So this is where I'm at right now. My plan now moving forward is to go ahead and get the rest of this suspension stuff in the front together. And I'm trying to get as much stuff done and ready for primer as I can possibly get. So these are going to be my next 2 steps. This is already done. This is pretty much done. I'm also going to go ahead and put the dashboard in and putty that all together and get it smoothed out. I did give the body a quick sand and took all the mold lines off. But next I want to go ahead and fill these doors and smooth the body out. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that for episode 2. So when I come back, we're going to have the front end and everything else in primer, and we're going to start doing some detail painting and getting this thing ready to assemble. Also, we'll tackle the motor, finish putting that together at that point, and we will move forward. So as always, I really appreciate y'all stopping by and tuning in. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. As I said before, I read all of them. I will get back to you. And thanks again. Let's be good to each other and stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see y'all again soon. Good night.